Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's former chief strategist, remember him? Well, he is now urging conservatives to prepare for controlling the United States government. Here is Bannon on one of his most recent podcasts. Watch.
We're winning big in 2022. We're gonna win big in 2024. We need to get ready now, right? We control this country. We gotta start acting like it. And one way we're gonna act like it, we're not gonna have 4,000 ready to go. We're gonna have 20,000 ready to go. And we're gonna pick the 4,000 best and the most ready in every single department.
Now, it sounds like it's a mere staffing plan for government bureaucrats, right? But it's actually a far more intense plan that Bannon is talking about. And here's why, quote, Bannon referred to 4,000 shock troops in an interview with NBC News on Saturday after the network reported that he had been earlier in the week with party faithful to prepare to reconfigure government once a Republican is in the White House. If you're gonna take over the administrative state and deconstruct it, then you have to have shock troops prepared to take it over immediately. Bannon told NBC, I gave him fire and brimstone, according to the Huffington Post. Now, shock troops is a military term. It's often associated by historians with Nazi brown shirts during World War II. And when Bannon is there encouraging conservatives to take over the federal government with shock troops, he's also been talking not just about the federal government, but also local governments. And so across the United States, you have tons of MAGA faithful who are now essentially infiltrating school boards, running for local office, which is the right, of course, but it is making local politics even more extreme and more divisive.
So new poll out saying basically 52%, more than half of Trump supporters want to secede from the union. But we are really at loggerheads, what you're calling a cold civil war, right? And you say one of the reasons for this is the terror management theory. So tell us what that is.
Okay, so I think first when we're talking about any of this stuff, we have to face the fact that the only way to understand it is through the lens of science, in particularly psychology, neuroscience, and social psychology. Because if we don't, everything that's happened in the last 5 years and the things that are happening right now will seem completely random and unpredictable. And while these things, Trump winning the presidency, the QAnon phenomenon, the storming of the Capitol, while these things are like something from some wild movie, if you were using psychology to predict what was going to happen by thinking about the collective effects of fear and tribalism, you could have actually seen all of these events happening, and it really wouldn't have been surprising at all. So when we look at things through the lens of psychology, we can really make sense of things. And to do that, we have to think about terror management theory. So basically, this theory says that our worldviews, and when I say worldviews, I'm talking about religions, national identities, and political ideologies. What these worldviews do is ease our fears and make us feel safe. It gives us a belief system that makes sense of reality. So what happens when we're fearful, when there's some kind of existential threat looming, we actually strengthen our worldviews. So we become more ideological and we become more aggressive towards people that aren't in our group, and we become less critical or less willing to speak out against people who are in our group. Now, you can actually trace what's going on back to the period when ISIS was really in the news and everybody was scared about that. And so Trump really exploited those fears of ISIS, fears of immigrants, and became president. And then that scared the left because now we had an incompetent leader. We had this white nationalist movement that was blowing up. So that caused existential fear in the left. And when this happens, each side basically scares the other side and makes both sides more polarized. And when we get onto that trajectory, there's a positive feedback loop that gets established where just the division keeps increasing. And if you don't do something consciously to reverse that, then basically we're stuck on this trajectory that leads us into something like a cold civil war or societal collapse.
Yeah, I mean, you were writing about it before the poll came out, and so And plus, it makes sense, it's logical. But Bobby, I want to take it one step further. As I was reading your material, I thought, well, this is why right-wingers always start conflict. Whether it's Netanyahu in Israel constantly starting battles, conflicts, wars in the Gaza Strip, whether it's Erdogan constantly picking fights in Turkey, and we can go on, and Trump as well. Because the conservative mind is more circle the wagons, right? And when you have us versus them, you're in the conservative mindset. When you have one that is based on hope and empathy and spreading out our identity. So I relate to you, I empathize with you, I view you as in my camp. Then we're in the progressive mindset. So that then seems to incentivize right-wingers to start wars, because the minute you start the war, we immediately go to us versus them, which helps elect conservatives. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think you see it a lot on the right. I think that's kind of the name of the game for them. But unfortunately now we're seeing it on the left too, just because we are at war. There's like an information war going on because you have like QAnon brainwashing people, making them like believe that, for example, the like COVID or the vaccines are some sort of like bioweapon, all these crazy conspiracy theories. And so when that happens, we kind of all start playing that game. So I think we really need to be aware of that. I think awareness of that happening is really what gets us back on track. I think it's going to take like a massive campaign to like restore trust, and we need to start doing that. We need to start trying to align interests to see like the things that we agree on. I know you in the past have talked about like, you know, some of the right wingers being concerned with corruption in politics and bias in media. And that's something that we should all be able to agree on. Progressives did agree, you know, those were progressive concerns until we had this new enemy. So we need to really try to establish the things that, you know, we see eye to eye on. And I'm not saying meet in the middle, because I think centrism can be just as bad for progress as like extremism. Right. But we do need to start trying to understand each other. When you talk about whether we should split the nation in two, just to get back to that, we need to think about the effects of that. If we did that, then America would probably almost immediately lose its status as a superpower. And I'm sure countries like China and Russia would love to see that happen. Russia might even go, oh, you know, thank you. Like, this is exactly like what we were hoping for. So we can't play into their hands. We can't play into Trump's hands. And I think we do that by realizing that the people on the right, the people who are following QAnon, they're pawns in a game. They've been radicalized and brainwashed. So it's really not like productive to like place the blame on them. We have to place the blame on the people at the top. At the same time, I don't think it's right to ban, I won't say I don't think it's right, because it might be the morally right thing to do. I don't think it's the smart thing to do to ban Trump from Twitter and to take everything relating to like, you know, any sort of criticisms of vaccines off YouTube. Not because it isn't a good idea, but it's just going to facilitate the emergence of like right-wing social media to the point where we're both isolated and cut off from each other. Yeah. And what that can do is just lead to like right-wing terror, because then there are no social checks and everybody's, you know, all the extremists get together, and that even a more dangerous situation than we have right now.